Education regular meeting Wednesday, August 14th, 2024. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Burkett. Here. Mrs. Crawford.
Here.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Here.
Mr. Norris.
Here.
Mr. Ritzenthaler.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? Second? Second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Norris.
Yes.
Mrs. Burkett.
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford.
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler.
Yes.
Okay, public participation. Each person who wishes to address the board will be asked to give his or her name and address. Remarks should be limited to 3 minutes in length. If everyone who wishes to do so has had the opportunity to speak, additional comments may be made up to a total allotted time of 30 minutes. All right. Special presentation.
So we got to hear the pre-trip plans for our two music band directors, and they are here to share actually the experience with us. So Mr. Kish and Mrs. Holliman.
All right, I will try to turn this as much as I can so everybody can see, because this is very picture heavy. The middle picture on this, I included simply because it's rare that we can find reindeer pelts. I don't know. It was the first thing I saw walking through the airport in Helsinki, was that you could buy a reindeer pelt for 137 euros. I thought about making it an addition to the band room, but I didn't. But we were at the International Society for Music Education's 2024 World Conference. And so a lot of this slideshow is images that we took. This is a picture I took of the Finnish Parliament building, which was right across the street from our convention hall. It's proof of life photo, really. And then that's the same building. That's the music hall that's across the street. The Finnish Parliament is right over here. But just so you guys can see how that lays out. This was across the street. I don't know, our follower count is not super high, but before we left, we had 2 weeks of band camp right before the week that we did this. And during that week, I asked the students, I was like, so you guys know, they've known for a long time that we were going on this trip and we were going to present, and I was curious how many of them would be interested in if we did some content from over there, as we did. So the band has had an Instagram page that I haven't used since probably 2020. I think the only picture on it was us performing at a Monsters game right before the pandemic stopped school that year. So I used that, and a lot of kids, it was like 30, would follow each post I put. That was a lot more than the 5 who raised their hands that day. So one of the videos, though, featured this statue and its prominent mustache. So that was some of the stuff that I sent back. This, just throwing this out there as a possible suggestion, but the auditorium in this college was unbelievable. It was unlike anything I've ever really seen or dealt with, and I've been in some pretty special places, so it was kind of impressive. So took a panoramic picture of that. I hadn't talked about this much because it kind of developed really late, but I actually did 2 presentations while I was there, and the first one might be more interesting to you, actually. So they do a history standing committee. So these are, the people on the committee are probably the 4 most prominent researchers in the history of music education across the world. And they do a thing where they invite young researchers to come in and kind of pitch a topic. And my topic was actually the history of support for music in the Norwalk community. So I did a little digging before I started. I mean, I didn't know, and I've been teaching here a little while now, that Whitney Field, Calvin Whitney, his connection to the A.B. Chase Piano Company. I didn't realize he was the number 2 in that company, and that's where he earned his money. He had the first electric car in the city of Norwalk. Didn't know that either back in like 1903. So all kinds of crazy stuff I learned in putting together this project, and the professors in the room were way for it. So they're all expecting me to actually go through and do this. So I guess I have some homework, but I figured that I would let you know about that. But yeah, that was a extra presentation that I did on the first day. So this is just an example of something from that conference that's going to come back and hopefully have an influence on some of our students here in Norwalk as a part of the music appreciation course I do here at the high school. there's a component of it where we look at music from other cultures around the world and people who were born in other places and have kind of moved around, and as they've moved, their music has evolved. And we use an artist named Angelique Kidjo, who did a lot of work. She was born in Ghana, in Africa, in the 1970s. And so her work, in terms of the popular music she made, is pretty dated. I still play it, and the kids they listen, they're game enough to pay attention. But I found this band that I can use to kind of supplement that. So these 4 people here are a Finnish band. The instrument right here, that little keyboard-looking thing, is an instrument. They have an instrument in Finland called the kantele, it's a folk instrument. But these 4 musicians met this guy on the right, who was a luthier, somebody who makes it out of wood, basically. They met him after meeting up with him or seeing his work at the Burning Man Festival in California, of all places. And so they asked him to create a kantele that 4 people could play at the same time so that they could do not just Finnish traditional music, but pop music. So I have a bunch of videos of them doing like Rihanna songs and stuff that they did in this concert. And then I met him and shot a little interview with him so that I can play it for the students if he's willing to do like video lessons. So I can actually bring him in and say, look, this is somebody who makes instruments for a living and does pretty well doing it and has done some things that are kind of notable. So just an example of one of the things I was able to pick up from a totally different place that will hopefully be in front of your students in just a few months. So that was kind of exciting. A couple more sites. This is the big central building in Helsinki, but like a lot of our buildings, if you go to Washington, you get a lot of the fake border as they're rebuilding stuff. So we ran into some of that. Oh, and that is my thumb. But terrible photographer. When you have an amusement park, the students like this, because Tuesday I went to the amusement park, it's free. You have to pay for each ride, kind of like a fair here, but to get into the amusement park in Finland, it's free. Let's see, that's their opera house, also heavily under construction. It's their version of Macy's. Stockman's a giant department store in the middle of downtown. This is where we met up partway through the week. It's the monument for one of their most influential composers, and I did a little video of that, about that composer for our students who liked the video of us meeting up. It was like 13 seconds long. This was a really cool church. I don't know if you can see because of the gray in the sky, but this green dome right there, built into the rock. This is a church that they built into the bedrock. And so I was able to go take pictures. We have a student who's a very good organist. And so I made sure to get a lot of close-up photos of the organs so that he had something to look at too. But just another way I could kind of use this to try to make connections with some of our students. That's just some more pictures of that church, just because it was pretty remarkable as far as the buildings go. That bakery, phenomenal. I walked in and I was like, so what's the best thing here? From America, only gonna do this once and trying to cut down. So one thing.
One of each.
She suggested 3, and so I made a choice, but it was pretty amazing. The stuff, it's like, if you've ever been to New York City, there used to be restaurants on like every corner. There still kind of are today, but it's just a little different. This city's still like that. Everybody walks everywhere. Everybody, your grocery store is right across the street, even if you live 1 block away from the other grocery store that is also right across the street. It's just kind of crazy. So,
Wow, okay, so my husband came with me, so we were very heavy on the sightseeing while we were there. On the left is a picture at an island that held the fortress of Suomenlinna. It's an 18th century sea fortress, and so you got to walk around the whole island. There was like a guided tour, which was very cool, with a lot of signs, so you got to learn a whole lot. So you got to walk through the whole island, and then on the right there is also an island zoo. Whole island just for a zoo. It's very cool. And it's a little mountain goat family, because part of the zoo looks down the cliffs and you get to watch the little mountain goats. It's very fun. They were supposed to have reindeer. The reindeer were not out. We were very disappointed.
I think we know why. If you see the first picture.
We missed the reindeer. But yeah.
Okay.
And then my husband and I went to Estonia for a day. You can take essentially a small cruise ship with like duty-free shop, restaurants, lounges, and all for about a little under 3 hours to take a trip to Estonia. We spent the day there. So on the left is the Alexander Nevsky Cathedral. And on the right is just like their town square. They have definitely like a historic district, if you will, of Estonia, of Tallinn, and then a more modern area as well. So we have to walk through all of that. A lot of walking on largely unpaved streets. On the left, that is still in Tallinn, Estonia. That's the House of the Government of the Republic of Estonia. We have to walk up all those stairs to get to. And then on the right is a street view.
Notice there's no picture from up there.
There might be, maybe. It might be the next one. I did try the stairs. Oh,
And this is the last day of the conference was our presentation, and this was our pre-presentation shot, and then a couple action shots of the presentation. So, when we talked about co-teaching, which is our situation a lot of the day, we're able to teach together so that we can divide and work more efficiently with our students. So,
yeah, it was very cool. We had guests from
China.
From China. Who were excited to hear what we had to share because they do something similar in their teaching environment, and they were excited to bring that kind of stuff back, even though they don't have classes during the day. It's more of a partnership with private lesson teachers, which was very cool to hear from them.
Yeah, and our session got a lot of talk later by professors and people who were in the room just talking about it, like this is the kind of thing this group needs, so it was nice to hear.
Yeah,
Cool. All right, that's it of what we did over our summer vacation.
You definitely see why students want to be
Yeah.
with these two directors. They're always thinking, forward thinking, what else can I do? What else can I bring in? That's what they're doing. Like I said, that's kind of a collective piece across all of our directors. So, like I said, any student in Norwalk cannot go wrong. Whatever your choice, they want to say go band is the number one, but yeah, band or choir, they're all top shelf. And you definitely see that by the people we have to work with our kids.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. So how long did it take to get there? 8 hours and 45 minutes. From Chicago. Yeah, wow, it's a long flight. Yeah.
Thank you for that article too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
thank you
That's
for it.
interesting.
Okay, so next we have a short video on Ohio's new fraud training requirement. Revised Code 117.103 was recently amended, and it required the Ohio Auditor State's Office to create a new training video on the fraud reporting system. When you filled out your payroll paperwork way back when you signed the same form saying that you had read all the paperwork. Well, now they want you to watch the video. Everyone has to watch this video, all elected officials, every public employee. Schools have until November 29th to get this done. It's only traditional schools, ESC, STEMs, community schools. It's not private schools. But we do have to have every employee watch this video and sign a certificate unless we're doing a group presentation like we are, which we're also going to do the first all-staff day for everybody so they get it done. It has to be repeated every 4 years. I'm required to track everyone that has done this, and if somebody doesn't do it, I have to turn them into the state. Not sure what the state will do to them, but that is the threat. So it shouldn't take long, but here we go. Jen's already got us registered, and we're all set.
Good law, and is now required for nearly all Ohio public employees. This training will provide you with the tools necessary to detect and report fraud and maintain the strict ethical standards required by your position. Too often, my office is required to issue findings and recovery of taxpayer dollars or other sanctions against Ohio entities and employees that could have been avoided. This training will provide you with the knowledge to help you avoid these penalties associated with fiscal wrongdoing. More importantly, it will assist you in recognizing potential criminal activity by others and give you the information necessary to report to law enforcement or the auditor's special investigations unit. As public servants, we are expected to do our jobs with the utmost honesty as we serve Ohio's taxpayers. I thank you for your service to Ohioans, and if you have any questions after the training, please feel free to contact us at the auditor's office at either ohioauditor.gov or 1-866-FRAUD-OH. Thank you. Welcome to the Ohio Auditor of State's training video on reporting fraud,
waste, and abuse in government. As public employees, it's our responsibility to ensure that taxpayer dollars are used efficiently, effectively, and transparently. That requires a rigid adherence to the ethical behavior that taxpayers across Ohio have come to expect from us. The overwhelming majority of public employees come to work and do their jobs with the highest level of professionalism and pride. But on occasion, there are bad actors who take advantage of their access to public funds and resources. These types of behaviors are rare, but when they do occur, no matter how big or small, it severely erodes the public's trust in our work. Before we begin, here's a bit of background. The brief training you're about to receive is just one layer of a robust fraud reporting training that is required by law of all state and local government employees. Each public employee is required to receive this training during their initial onboarding and every 4 years thereafter. By learning the signs of fraud, knowing your responsibilities when fraudulent behavior in government occurs, and knowing how to report fraud to the appropriate authorities, you can play a key role in preventing loss of taxpayer resources. And as a public employee with an inside perspective to the day-to-day doings of government, you are the first line of defense in stamping out fraud, waste, and abuse. Let's begin by defining our 3 main categories: fraud, waste, and abuse, and then look at examples of each in the context of state and local government. First, fraud. Fraud in government refers to intentional deception or misrepresentation for personal gain or to deceive the public. This could include embezzlement, bribery, or falsifying documents, such as timesheets or financial statements. Let's look at an example. In 2019, an employee of Smith Village created fake invoices for services that were never provided. They arranged for a family member to receive the contract to provide those services. When the invoices were paid, the employee and their accomplice pocketed the money. This scheme lasted for 3 years before being discovered, resulting in losses totaling $30,000. Now let's look at waste. Waste in government occurs when resources are used carelessly or extravagantly without adequate oversight, resulting in unnecessary costs to taxpayers. This might include overpaying for goods or services, unnecessary spending on projects, or even an intentionally inefficient process for a routine task. Let's look at an example. The Office of Finance is looking to purchase new technology for its team. The department decided to purchase desktop PCs for all administrative employees, all of whom had already been issued laptops. As a result of this oversight, many employees decided they don't need the new machines, and the PCs end up in storage, unused and wasting taxpayer funds. If the Office of Finance had issued the machines only to employees who needed them, they could have saved money. And lastly, abuse. Abuse excludes fraud and non-compliance and involves actions that a prudent person would determine to be unreasonable based on the circumstances, such as requesting reimbursement for an expensive meal or asking an assistant to pick up dry cleaning during working hours. Let's look at an example. The Director of Communications frequently has his clothes dry cleaned. It's common practice that he sends his admin out once a week to the dry cleaners 20 minutes from the office. Not only should the director be responsible for his own laundry, but it is also obviously inappropriate to have the admin run errands on state time. It's important to know that the examples provided are not comprehensive or exhaustive definitions of fraud, waste, or abuse, but if something doesn't look right, it's probably worth looking into. It's crucial for us to remain vigilant and report any suspicions of fraud, waste, or abuse. Suspect fraud? Speak up. We'll do the rest. Let's take a moment to discuss how you can report suspected bad behavior to the Ohio Auditor's Special Investigation Unit. Ohio law requires that any known instance of fraud, waste, or abuse be reported to the Ohio Auditor of State. There are several options you can use to make a report. You can report online through the auditor's website. Make a call to our Special Investigations Unit and speak to our intake specialists. This may require you to leave a message outside of business hours, but our staff will contact you. Send an email to our Special Investigations Unit that details the information you want to report. Make a report through mail, sending our Special Investigations Unit a narrative and any substantiating documentation you may have. All public organizations have a working relationship with staff at the Ohio Auditor's Office. If you suspect fraud, waste, or abuse, you could make a report to a member of our audit team. In this case, they could assist you in providing the necessary information to our Special Investigations Unit. Anyone who makes a report to the Auditor of State's Special Investigation Unit should expect one of our intake specialists or investigators to reach out to them. The more information that you can provide, the greater we're able to thoroughly investigate your claim. Remember, making the report is the first step in stamping out unethical and illegal behavior in government. It's important to note that public employees are protected against disciplinary action or retaliation from their employer for making a reasonable and good faith report of suspected fraud, theft in office, or misuse or misappropriation of public money. That means your good faith report of suspected fraud should not impact your role or status as a government employee. Thank you for taking the time to watch this important training video. By working together to detect and prevent fraud, waste, and abuse, we can ensure that taxpayer dollars are used responsibly, effectively, and transparently. Remember, it's up to all of us to uphold the integrity of state and local government in Ohio.
Okay. We'll cross that off the compliance list.
Want me to stop?
Thanks, Joyce.
Alrighty.
All right, so
We have fulfilled our duty by law. We are good to go. So next, we have items for approval. We have the minutes that were sent out. We have July's 2024 financial report. Pretty much the biggest thing in July was the school district income tax. Came in $186,000 above the same time last year, same quarter. So that's really good. That shows that everybody's working, more people are working. You still see help wanted signs everywhere. I know we're always looking for new employees. So that's really good. I always worry about that because it's such a touchy, it fluctuates easily. So that was good. Bryce Hellman has been here working on the EPAC, so we have some outdated items to either put in the auction or dispose of because he's really getting us into the new technology there. Nora Catholic has some auxiliary items to dispose of also. For the cafeteria, of course, remember all our students are going to eat at no cost, but we do still have extras that we sell and staff and adult lunches. So then these are the same prices as last year, but we need to approve it every year. I do need a delegate to the Ohio School Business Association Conference in November and an alternate.
has anyone looked at their calendars on this?
I think it's November 11th.
Yes, the conference is a couple days, but the actual business part is on the first day, Monday.
Isn't it part of the weekend and then Monday, or is it?
It usually starts
or
like
is it all the
Sunday.
week?
They've tried to make it a little bit smaller, so I think it's like Sunday to Tuesday. I could probably go.
I'll be an alternate.
Okay. There's so much time I'm gonna have left for this, so I don't wanna necessarily.
You have personal time, correct? Kayla.
Yeah. Public record. So that, if anything falls through for you guys and I do have the time, I can jump in. Appreciate that.
November 11th is a holiday, right, Jim?
Yes, sir.
That's all we have for that part, and then we have a separate one for the equitable services contract.
Alright, is there a motion to approve items 1 through 5 under the treasurer's report?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any other discussion? Alright, roll call please.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mrs. Burkett?
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenballer?
Yes.
Okay, and the separate one we had was equitable services. We had a question if there was a conflict, which there is not, so that's why we put it in separate. But this is the services that we're required to, with federal dollars, provide to Norwalk resident students that attend Norwalk Catholic School And we're using North Point to provide the Title I teachers, so we have what's called a pooling agreement. So if there are any funds that are remaining, it is pulled together for all of the Title I students, even if they're not Norwalk resident students. And that's what this agreement is.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve item 6 under treasurer reports? Second? Second. Can you second? Okay.
Yes.
I just want to be sure. Okay, discussion? No? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mrs. Burkett?
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Isabella?
Yes.
All right, personnel.
All right, thank you.
And for approval, first there is Rachel Rice, teacher, 1-year contract, MA 45. Rachel is with us here. We're excited. She's the final puzzle piece of locking down all of our teachers needed for the school year. So we got some connections there, and we got to interview Rachel twice, and very impressive. So definitely when you see her personality, and she's highly educated, so has done a whole lot of other things. And then at this point, like, I love education. She had worked in the Perkins School District in the previous year, so knew this was the right career path that she wants to be in. So we're excited she will be at League Elementary in the moderate to intensive classroom. So we're very excited to have, and Jennifer King is especially excited to have landed Rachel Rice. So thank you for being here tonight.
I'm excited.
Next two, we have 2 transportation aides. We are hiring Alexandra Presley and Catherine Alley. 1 cook and Amanda Garwood. We have 2 special needs aides, Catherine Ragnoni and Jessica Wise, filling the critical spots there. Number 2, change of classification, Allison Nelson. She is going from cook to cafeteria manager. If you remember, Mrs. Shield moved from cafeteria manager at Maplehurst to an aide position, so that created that opening. So Allison Nelson is going from the cook to managing the school at Maplehurst. So that is the plan there. Resignations, you all see very similar in the same category of special needs aides, Brandy Ratliff, Lily Ray, Cassandra Peltman, and Sue Hostetter. So we are currently have postings, openings in that area, and we've talked to our staff and anybody who's connected and has, you know, quality people that want to work in the school system, work with our kids. That is an area we're definitely in need of. And obviously that is with a week out from school, we are making a lot of calls to make this happen. But we obviously want quality people here that have interest in there. And all those individuals have their own personal story as to why and what they're going to now. So it makes sense for them, but it's a tough loss for us as a district. Number 4, we have a long, lengthy list here of our certified and classified listing for substitutes for the 24-25 school year. Mr. Baum has been pretty integral in that, and making that happen with those interviews and making that list expand and expand. So we are having to secure some quality substitutes because we know there are a healthy number of maternity leaves that will be happening in our district, and Mr. Kania here, the high school principal, has his share as well. So we want to make sure we have quality subs that can come in and run a quality show, even with that teacher not there for whatever stretch of time that be. Number 5, we have our employment of substitute EPAC. So as you know, Robin Rogers runs the art gallery, the EPAC, and the Fisher Times Learning Center. This is the group, and primarily this is not school-based activities. These are all the outside groups that come and use our facility. So those are the individuals there, like as needed basis, that will cover the events, and, you know, from dance groups to all the other ones that use these spaces. So that's what they're for, and obviously a lot of them have tech background and have been trained by Mr. Elliman in how all these kind of operations work in both the EPAC and what we've recently done here behind me. Number 6 is a supplemental contract for Tracy Hyman, League Safety Patrol. 7, we've added 2. Mr. Schlauter has added 2 additional volunteers, and Troy Pittenger at boys soccer at the high school level, and Stephen Willer for cross country. Number 8, 24-25 extended time. These are ones that have beyond the teacher contract. So if you look at those individuals, school psychs, therapists, SLPs, school counselors, and then Mr. Scheid is back there as well. As you know, he is back in the seat for middle school athletics. So that is your list. And then Mrs. Smith, who probably could double that time. She does so much work with our pre-K and all the work she does. So that is the list of individuals based on what those needs are beyond a teacher contract. Number 9, these are the local professional development committee members. they're the ones ensuring that people are working on the professional development, the courses they need to renew a licensure. So the teachers actually get compensated for their time because that's after student time. Mr. Kenya has agreed to serve in the administrative capacity, so Ken Moore, Mr. Moore has done that for some time. Mr. Kish was in that secondary role, and now Mr. Kenya has offered his services to help with that. So he will be there. Josh Slaughter will simply be there if Mr. Kenya can't make those meetings. So admin are not compensated during that window, but like I said, that's a critical team because they're making sure everybody on the professional end of our school is certified and licensed and have what they need. Number 10 is our stipend, $150 for our teachers that we just had, including Rachel and 5 others that were with us on Monday. A good day where we fed them breakfast and then we talked to them for a while and gave them the critical ins and outs and some technology and the passwords and logins and all those things they need. And then we fed them lunch and then they had the rest of the day to work in their individual buildings. So that was the plan. There was only one individual, a new teacher that was not there. He had a already planned trip, and that was Bobby Gossam. He is our business teacher at Norwalk High School. So he had already talked to me, so we're going to get him up to speed, but we had the 6 individuals there, and that's basically compensating for that one day. That is outside of their start of the teacher contracted days. So that is all I have.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve all items under personnel? Second?
Second.
Any discussion? If you need us to, hopefully you can find some quality people to fill those roles. If you need us, if you find those people before school starts, we'll jump in and get them approved and get it going. I hope you can.
Okay.
Anyway, all right. Any other discussion? Great, roll call, please.
Mrs. Burkett?
Yes.
Mr. Witzenfeller?
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Great, superintendent's reports.
So item for approval, we had the 2024-25 school bus routes. They were finalized at the end of last week. Those went out yesterday and on Monday. So there are a lot of calls and emails in the transportation office, as you can imagine, because parents are getting for the first time, here's the route, here's what it's going to look like, here's the timing of it. So there are a lot of questions. So if there's any shifts and changes from what I've previously seen, you can imagine there's a lot of questions being fired at Mr. Schmidt and Mr. Shield and Mrs. Parker. So they are manning those. I think they had 155, and I think they're down to 10 of those that they need to respond back to. So understand that is a complex, if you think about the number of students in our district that are getting bused, and we're trying to make all the puzzle pieces fall together and work fluidly, it is a difficult task. It's almost to the degree of a principle of master scheduling of how do I get kids in all the classes they need to get and fitting a class schedule. This is doing on just a different scale of how to get someone transported to school to and from. So there is a lot of the bulk of our calls and emails right now coming from central office are based on that, and that's not atypical. That's every year when those go out, people have questions. So if some of you are connected with people and they're having questions, they're definitely, that's the department, and they will respond to that, but that's what's happening. So that's day 2 of people having that information in their hand. Number 2, 24-25 preschool handbooks. That attachment is there provided for you. 3, we have our MOU, continuing with Mike Connie as our SORO. He has been, I think anybody who's been here as a staff member, we were highly impressed and wanted to make sure to retain his services, and that's going to be through the Huron County Sheriff's Office. So that is an MOU with their office. So I'm asking for approval of that MOU agreement, and that is all I have.
Great. And a motion to approve all items under superintendent's reports. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Great, roll call, please.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mrs. Burkett?
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Witzenfeller?
Yes.
Great, board discussion. I know we had some board members had some public questions on the cell phone policy changes and the younger pouches. As always, Mr. Katie, your newsletter was extremely helpful and detailed. I appreciate that. I think that answered some questions. Do you have any that weren't answered from that?
Most of it was really just like the logistics. Like once a student enters the no cell phone area, what exactly happens? And are they taking the pouches home with them and then back to?
So I brought some today. When you're done, you can look at and
Cool.
play with a little bit too. There's the medical ones, because kids with cochlear implants, I know people that said that cochlear implants, that they have to run their device to run that, or diabetics typically have that. So that is an example of that. Every kid's pouch is gonna have a tag to it with their name on it. I got 10 different colors to help them identify. Every kid will, again, have one assigned. So in the process of coming in, we are going to single entry. That was kind of out of our safety committee as well, to do that anyway. So as part of the single entry, the first thing they do is unlock their pouch for the day, put in their phone, and we check them at the door that their device is put in, they secure it, and then they're in our building for the day. We check them to see if they've damaged any pins or tried to pry it. If that's the case, then we keep it with the pouch until they replace it, or, indefinitely at that point. When they leave for school, then they basically unlock their pouch as they go. We will have at least, I believe, 12 of these out. We are going to permanently put 2 of them outside on the pillars in the front of school in case a kid leaves without unlocking it. They get home, and what do I do? They don't have to gain entrance to the high school to unlock their pouches as they go. So once I go through there, and we have kids who come and go during the day, every kid will be directed to sign in and see in the front office with Miss Linder, and the same process for that. So secured when they come in and secured when they go out. We do know, like, there are situations where kids need that. For example, there are 2-factor authentications for college courses. So everybody defaults to their phone instead of emails. Like, you get that code on your phone in order to get in your college class. For example, we have BGSU classes here. There's a situation with a teacher, they have a portable station like this. It doesn't look exactly like this. Of course, they're not in yet, but they'd have that station for those situations when they need to 2-factor authenticate, and things we haven't thought of yet, but we do have the ability to do that as well. So that's kind of the gist of the procedure then throughout the day.
Do they have to keep them on their person, or like?
They don't have to. They can keep them in their locker at that point. Yep. If they feel better because it's on them, they have it. One of the things they put out, like, people are concerned if worst case scenarios, what happens if they're locked down for a long time, need to call their parent. Well, if we're in a bad situation, everybody has their stop the bleed kits. These can be cut open. They can access it if we're worried about communicating back with parents in situations like that. So all those be covered with our staff and students during rollout. Last I heard, our shipment date was going to be next Friday, which is our 3rd day of school. I would anticipate a delay on that. I'm hoping to roll out by the 1st of September. That's just how the world is right now. And once they're in, we have to tag them, identify them, and get them ready for rollout.
Okay, so we don't have them all yet.
No, they're scheduled to come Friday, the first week of school. They got overwhelmed like many. Dan was part of some of those talks early, like, we have plenty of these things, and in the spring, we started a discussion about what does this look like, a while ago, just seeing, what kind of things we can do. And at that point, it was like, we have tons, we will never run out. Well, there was a late passing in Ohio, a lot of panic by people, a lot of discussion. And when they got our PO, that's where we were on the list. So as of right now, because we're in talks with them, hopefully the shipment the first Friday, and we hope to have it rolled out that week. But like I said, it could be delays, and we'll communicate when we're rolling out of that.
Department of Ed publishes in the news, so there are a lot of large school districts in the state of Ohio that have done this now. So you think our numbers say, just a bit over 700, 715, I think was the exact count. So you're talking individual districts that are asking for, 5,000, 6,000. Multiply that, and like I said, we've seen so much more on the publications of like districts that are doing that have done late ad, because everyone's kind of like, well, is this radical or is this smart? Everyone wants someone else to try something before they do it. So is this a smart thing, or are we jumping too early and doing something? So yeah, we're kind of locally one of the few, but you stretch out beyond us, it's not atypical to be using this system.
The principals we talked to that have been doing it, the one I talked to from Akron Public, they've been doing it for I think 4 years, and they said it's 2 tough weeks. It's like you're removing a drug from the kids. Because forever we don't want them to use the drug, but we haven't put it in their pocket. So it's like unrealistic the amount of conflict you have throughout the day with that. So it was 2 tough weeks, and then by the end of it, that, you know, they see increased engagement, they could show their increase in test scores, their absences, you know, they track all kinds, and we can't wait to see what type of data we get. We had freshman orientation, and I had overwhelmingly positive comments from people, so that was good, and they're coming in, you know, with a locker, or, you know, used to having their locker, so I'm very optimistic about how things will go here.
I attended Mr. King's second session today for freshman orientation. I had a parent say how amazing when I limited my kids from having they're different children.
Right.
You think about like, when we go on vacation, I will give you some time at night to be on your phone, but during the day, it's like my kids are drastically different. My own kids are different. So like, there is some excitement, as much as we have people saying like, this is the worst thing we ever could do. There is some excitement because we all know how we feel when we don't have our hands on electronic device nonstop. So,
I personally think that it's an overwhelming positive response that I've seen. You know, you have your couple outliers, but I mean, it's pretty positive, and happy that we're doing it. The only other thing I didn't realize it could have been in the newsletter and I missed it, but so you're going down to one entrance.
Yes,
'Cause I know a lot
it was
of
on the
them
entry
go in the
points,
back.
yep. Yeah, it was part of what, we talked with Mike Connie and other safety things. It's important to get to one entrance, you know, each day, and also that helps us check in pouches and items like that. So that was out of our building crisis response team to have, you know, just eyes on people as they come in the building. So that is a change we're looking to make for this year anyway, and it helps with just having one point of checking pouches.
No, I think it's great too. Was it in the newsletter though?
Yeah,
It
on
was?
entry
Okay, I'm
points
sorry.
was, yep.
Okay, I might just mention it too in the parent group, because I think there's a lot of students, mostly athletes, that are just, they always go in that back
Mhm.
area, and I just want to make sure.
Bag,
Yeah, so, well, I mean, I think that's great also.
Mhm.
Might just be a lot of traffic in that one area.
We'll see.
That's great. And then the only other question I had was, if students do damage it or, on accident or purpose or lose it, will they be responsible for replacing it? And if so, do we have to have parents sign anything? Do we have to do anything ahead of time?
It's just like a textbook. If they damage a textbook,
Okay.
it's a $30 cost. And in the meantime, if they don't pay it, they will put it in their damaged pouch and it'll stay. We have bins to track things. It'll go in the bin for the day and they just pick it up at the end of the day. If they forget their pouch, it goes into a white envelope, and that's in the check-in and check-out there, and we seal them off. So, because that does happen, like a kid
Right.
forgets it for the day, and we don't like, the world doesn't stop, and we deal with the punishment because he forgot it. It goes in a white envelope, name on it, goes in our bin, those come out at the end of the day to redistribute. So,
Mr. Kennedy, can you speak to the French program? So
yeah.
our last meeting, we accepted a resignation from our French teacher, Angela Morgan. So what is that status? Can you give us
So,
up to speed?
Yeah, unfortunately, we lost our French teacher like 2 weeks ago. I know several of my colleagues are still looking for French teachers that don't exist. And we have had, I believe, 4 straight years with numbers at 50 or under. So our numbers and demands have not been that great. Talking with parents, they're recommending Spanish just because it's a prevalent language in the area. There's been emphasis taken away, so we are deciding to phase out French. Kids who sign up for French 1, we automatically sign up for Spanish 1. And then if they want to continue, because there's situations where I need 3 years, like Ohio State still recommends 3 years of a foreign language. If they got 2 years in French, we are going to work with EduSeer as the program. Edison uses it. They have in-person teaching, even though it's a virtual environment. I'm going to have an adult to monitor that set up so that they can finish their credits, get their 3 credits if they want to, as we phase it out. We're going to evaluate our numbers throughout the year to see what we have going forward, because our Spanish numbers are big for our 2 teachers. So does it make sense to add capacity there or utilize some existing staff for this building? We'll have those discussions as the year goes on.
Just out of curiosity, has American Sign Language ever been considered as a course?
I think you run into, I don't want to say anything wrong, but if I remember, sometimes you run into NCAA approval issues with that sometimes, and I don't want to handicap people, but I mean, everything would be on the table, that's for sure. And finding something that drives numbers like if I'd had a Spanish teacher, I know I got numbers there and I can keep someone busy. Sign language, you know, I might be in a situation again where I don't have numbers, or maybe it is successful, I don't know. And having certified people in the area that want to teach sign language, I'm not sure what
I
that
know
is.
there's a lot of, deaf community in the area,
Mhm.
so I don't know if that would be something that.
And like talking with other Norwalk grads, like we talk all the time, man, if we had an ASL class, I would have taken that instead of Spanish.
I hear that a lot, actually.
And a lot of like parents and families that I work with, or even just being out in the community, like they're teaching their kids sign language, like in combination with, you know, English or their home language. And so if they're already having that exposure at a younger age, they might be more interested in, you know, carrying on with that. But yeah, finding somebody to teach that kind of class would be difficult, for
Right.
sure.
If there was a plethora of French teachers, I'd probably look to hire my
Oh,
fifth French teacher in my time, but they don't exist. I've talked to other colleagues and just numbers where they're at. That's kind of where we're at.
So we've always valued having a good teacher. One parent actually talked to me after our last meeting. Could I have any language? Could we do, like, if we're doing that, you're having a body, meaning a supervisor, a teacher, or somebody in the room supervising, and they're doing it online, like this program will be for French. Can we do that for any class? You know, can that be looked at where you're basically paying for the seat to do, well, that's tough because you're like a Mandarin, and you're like, that needs to be started because we can't just say, oh, I'm a sophomore, let me start that. Like that, all the research there is like, you have to start younger. This can't be a jump into a high school, like Romance languages are similar, and we have some that do Spanish, and like, I can probably do okay on teaching French 1 and anything beyond that. Like we have people in that capacity. So that was what a parent had talked to me. If you're getting the point of, we're just gonna offer something through an online platform, and then you may be doing one language, I'm sitting next to you doing whatever else. But like I said, as educators, we value the person in front making that language and that connection. And obviously those that own the programs and selling those would say they're equally strong. But that is obviously the eyes that need to, and the kind of the review of that come this year. So, Mr. King is here. Any other high school questions we can fire at him? He is there ready to take off.
I was gonna say, I think your newsletter was extremely informative and that answered a lot of questions.
Yep.
Appreciate that.
Last one, Mr. Kane. So you addressed all of our admin team. So we look at his newsletter, what he's done, and the way of communicating, because we have the app, we have the one call, we have a website, we have all these things. Mr. Kane has done a great job in that newsletter. So he's talked to our admin. We're kind of viewing different ways the principals can address their billing. So kind of share with that, with what you do and kind of the talk you've had with the admin team.
Yeah, we just went through, we're looking at purchasing maybe more seat licenses of what I use for my newsletter, and I think they use a little at League. If we do that, we can collaborate with our secretaries on things. The things that you guys don't see that I shared with them is the data you get, the clicks, the time on page, how they open it, where they're opening it from. All those things are things I use to evaluate how I build a newsletter and where I put items to see what people interact with, and getting some of that data is invaluable. I showed them in One Call Now how to, use the app to send, because when I do calls, I also send the emails along with it for follow-up, and then how to get the data back to show how few people actually listen to the phone call and how many open the email. So trying to see where your actual things come from, how many of those actually go to voicemail, where there was no voicemail. Again, kind of looking at some of those reports to see what good effective communication looks like and what gets through. So I think a lot of what I shared were things that they didn't quite always know about, or just to be mindful of, going forward when they communicate.
So still having peach jars, still final form. This is kind of a different kind of audience of who is expecting that from him on where he's sending it. So
I've not been shy. I think that you're the best communicator I've had out of all the buildings. Not that they're bad, but I always know what's going on. I love your newsletter. Pricey Allison Crawford read it 3 times. I can't remember anything else.
I don't see who read what, so I can't track.
I think I read it like 4 times.
So, I can't track that well.
readers there.
Like I still asked the question and he's like, it was in the newsletter. I'm like, no, it's really helpful. And I still have the one call and I listen to the voicemail, but it's nice to go back to something, mostly if you don't remember what was said, or you get cut off of a call, so I actually really like the newsletter. So I'm glad it's be implemented in other buildings, I think it'd be helpful. Any other discussion for Mr. Kenya?
Thanks for coming and
Yeah,
talking
I
with us.
appreciate
Yeah,
it.
the driver's ed numbers, I mean, we're
Yeah, so
almost filled.
we're full for first semester. Second semester, I think we still have a couple openings. And actually, we're slightly overfilled first semester, noting that not every kid will have their learner's permit probably when they show up. So we're right-sized, I guess. We're ready and excited for everything we'll run into year one. We'll hold a parent meeting the night of the first day of school because we have to have a official signature on the, what's the name of the form? The what is it?
Earn agreement.
No, learner's agreement, whatever. It's got a state form. I gotta get a lot of official signatures and stuff, so we're gonna host that, answer questions. Yeah, we're excited for it. It's gonna be a great program. I know we're gonna run into things along the way, and I hope everybody's understanding of that, and we look to get better every year and hopefully serve our community in a great way.
Cool. Anything else for Mr. Kenya?
That's all I'm good. That's all I'm good.
The other thing I have is I was looking for any feedback. I know I just sent it, but Peach Shade called me again. I sent an email. I think I copied the entire board. I hope I did. If not, I meant to. But Erie County Health Department is offering a school-based service to our district for on-site like dental cleanings, dental care, medical, sports, physicals, where they would actually bring this, I don't know what it is, like a bus or something that actually they could do all of these services in there. And it would be obviously offered to any of the students that parents agree upon it. And it helps parents, get these services when sometimes it's hard to do it outside of school time. And it's also the health department, so no student would be turned away if they couldn't pay or things like that. I know it's Erie County Health Department, but he said that he can offer it. He actually has these providers on Executive Drive right now, who actually runs from one of our buildings. I don't know if there's any feedback, if you guys read it, or if there's interest. But Mr. Shade would love to offer it if it's something we're interested in.
Jackie White is probably my point person that I talk to, like, does this make sense for us, does it not?
Right.
Because we've had other agencies where I think it's like, it seems naturally to be, it's the smart move, it's best for our kids. And then she's telling me, well, this is what I did not think of, or maybe I don't know
Right.
as to why it shouldn't be through that platform. So sometimes I think it's easy to jump to, it's always what's best for kids, so it seems the immediate, like, yeah, of course, let's do everything. But sometimes there's this other side, and I think I haven't had the full, just like my evaluation of, to say from Jackie White, but I'm dependent on her, because she is working with all the agencies and outfits, because as we know, like, our kids will be served one way or the other, but we have to make it work. Because we don't want someone in a home environment that can't physically get transported to where he or she needs to be. So like, those are all kind of the factors we have to look at. So like, I'm not prepared to say, yes, I'm.
No,
putting
just
mine.
want to
Yeah.
make sure you got it, and then
Yep.
if you want me to give you his contact information, he did add to that email, Margaretta, I think is one of the school districts taking advantage of it, so they might be a good resource of what works, what doesn't work. The only thing I loved about it was, most of the dental care, I think that's something that gets missed easily, just because it's hard to do and it's expensive, and having them come to all, even with how many buildings we have, hopefully not forever, but
Right.
they can come, whatever makes sense, so. I just thought it was a really nice offer, and I want to make sure that everybody saw it, and unless anyone has anything, they're sure they're not interested, I'll let them know, but. This one was good. Anything else? Any discussions? All right, if nobody has anything else, can I have a motion to adjourn? Second? Second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mrs. Burkett?
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenfeller?
Yes.
Thank you.